Hey guys, Oshrik Vox here. Today, Roundtable co-host, McCord, and new to the team, Kave, or as you guys can call him, Anti Nation, share their thoughts on the 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cinema Society. My name is McCord.
I'm Kave.
And we're here to talk about the highly anticipated Ghostbusters reboot.
Yes, highly anticipated.
Yeah.
Alright, so over the past 10 years or so, a third Ghostbusters film was in production with the original cast. But things never really came together, and once Harold Ramis passed away, Sony decided to continue the project but as a soft reboot, directed by Paul Feig, with a brand new cast. And this brand new cast includes Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. And, of course, there's been a lot of controversy around that.
Yeah, it's usually coming from a lot of, it's coming from people who don't want their childhood, destroyed. People who don't like the fact that they're women, people who just don't think it looks good. It's just a total mess, and the marketing hasn't really helped either.
The power of pain compels you! Ow!
But it's not exactly the dream team I would expect for a Ghostbusters movie, but I do think each of them individually are funny. I've seen Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones on Saturday Night Live before. I think they are hysterical. And I have seen Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy together in Bridesmaids, another Paul Feig movie. And that's pretty good. And I've also seen Melissa McCarthy in Spy, which is, yet again, another Paul Feig movie. And I think that's pretty good. And I saw that movie, a week or two ago, and as soon as I saw that, I thought the Ghostbusters movie was in good hands because it had good action and good comedy.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't seen any Paul Feig movies or any of these actresses in any films. I don't watch too many comedies personally, but I was a huge fan of the first film, and I was willing to see how this one turned out.
Yeah, the first two movies basically introduced me into film because for the longest time all I would watch was, of course, cartoons, and I thought anything live action was just batshit boring. And when we sat down and watched the first movie, I was hooked on it, and it ultimately got me into live action stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes without saying that the first one is a classic. It's had a major impact on both comedic films and American pulp culture in general, so it's somewhat understandable that people would be worried about how this new one would affect the legacy of the Ghostbusters. However, some sort of sequel was bound to happen, considering how massive of a merchandising property the franchise has been.
Yeah, there's been two cartoons, actually, and there's been comics, there has been a video game that is basically the third movie by the original cast. And there's been a lot of demand for it, from the past 2 decades. Mm-hmm. And it never really got off the ground. But, yeah, like you said, since Harold Ramis died, that ultimately killed off the third sequel. And it was originally going to be a pass the torch type film, sort of like Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Sadly, we never got that.
Speaking of The Force Awakens, though, plot-wise, this film is similar in that it follows many of the same beats as the original. Like the first, you have a group of scientists here working under a university until they eventually lose their funding. And then once paranormal creatures begin appearing around New York, they decide to form the Ghostbusters. Structurally, this film also provides an outlet for these actresses to show off their comedic strengths. Now, going into the movie itself, I would actually say the biggest positive in this film is what everyone was making a big deal about, and that's the cast itself. There's strong chemistry between all the members, and you can tell that they're all having fun with the material.
Yeah, like even like what I said before, even if it wasn't exactly the dream team, they worked surprisingly well together, and that's really what I like about Paul Feig's direction is that he's always able to get a mixed cast to work.
Hmm.
Like Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, and Chris Hemsworth basically stole the show for me.
Yeah, I would say Kate McKinnon in particular is the standout role here, but
Definitely.
she's completely underwritten, but has some of the most memorable scenes in the film.
Yeah, like there's not much to any of these characters, and I guess we may or may not get to that later. But her character Holtzman had me chuckling throughout the film because every delivery was just right on the nail. It was so good. Even when she wasn't trying to be funny, there's just that certain magic to her. Plus, the batshit crazy scientist is always a fun character to see in movies, regardless if it's good or bad. Like, I haven't seen much of her beyond CNL, and I don't think she's been in anything outside of that either. But after seeing this film, I think she's going to make it big.
Mhm. Yeah, this could potentially be her breakout role, which I guess I never really expected from Ghostbusters.
No.
You can't forget about Chris Hemsworth either. He plays a sort of a dumb male secretary in this film, and I'm sure that's going to piss some people off, but basically
Yeah.
every moment he has in this film is hilarious.
Yeah, like the best way to describe his character is like that kid from basically name your Nickelodeon sitcom here, where the only gag about him is that he's dumb as fuck and they just hammer it in and hammer it in, but for whatever reason it's funny every single time. I don't know, it was a pleasant surprise. I didn't think it was going to be that funny because I only know him from Thor, which isn't
Oh
exactly my
God.
cup of tea. Very boring movies in my
Well, they
opinion.
tried to be funny.
Yeah. And like I don't think he's been in a lot of comedies that come to mind except the Vacation remake and I didn't really like his character in that. He was about as unlikable as everyone else in that.
You actually saw that?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately on HBO. But yeah, he's easily the funniest character in the movie. And you might agree with me here, Kave, but with Leslie Jones' character, there are some negatives about her, but I think Patty was like the only character in the movie that had some common sense compared to the other Ghostbusters, which is funny because they tried to write her as dumb as possible.
Yeah,
And the
definitely.
okay,
She plays like the stereotypical, loud, obnoxious black woman, and
yeah,
you really got that from the trailers.
yeah, the Medea, Tyler Perry,
Yeah.
like, but the thing about Leslie Jones is that that's usually her shtick, and she usually plays around it to where I could usually give a laugh out of her based on her particular delivery. Like, and I'll be honest, she's more funny in CNL than she was in this, probably because she's more able to experiment on a sketch show than the major motion picture. But I could really tell she gave her all in this.
Yeah, sort of like Kate McKinnon. She made the best out of what she was given.
Yeah. I would say Christian Wiig and Melissa McCarthy's characters are definitely the weakest.
Yeah, I would say they were pretty boring as characters. Like, there's not really
Yeah.
much to them. There's not too much personality there. I know Melissa McCarthy, she usually plays on, like, oh, she's a crazy fat woman,
Yeah.
basically. We don't even get that here.
No, except for the wonton gag, I
Oh,
guess.
no, that wasn't funny at all. And they kept bringing it up.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know. What I also appreciate about this movie, and I was kind of worried when they first announced it, is how they kept a lot of the film surprisingly small scale and focused on the chemistry of the characters rather than turn it into some big CGI fest from beginning to end. And and if it was like any other director I know, they probably would have turned it into some Michael Bay bullshit. And they basically put all of that into the third act and put all of those common blockbuster tropes into the third act. And this movie did have some good moments where I felt like it almost could have stood out on its own. And its little moments too, like the opening sequence in the haunted mansion, I thought it set up the tone perfectly. And the scene where Aaron, Abby, and Holtzman encounter their first ghost, and Abby's gadget starts spiraling out of control, and she was like, "I didn't know it even did that." And the everyone starts calling them Ghostbusters, even though the name is Department of the Metaphysical Examination or some shit like that. I thought that was hilarious. I was definitely into the first act of this movie because it did feel like a legitimate Ghostbusters movie, and I wish there were more moments like that. And some of the designs of the ghosts I thought was kind of cool, especially the air balloons. I don't know, I thought those were creepy, even though most of the special effects are sort of Scooby-Doo-ish.
Yeah. This film doesn't take itself seriously at all, which works tone-wise. I would also say that the first half is the strongest. It's far more character-driven, and we're given a chance to see their different personalities clash with each other. Unfortunately, by the third act, it delves into that generic summer blockbuster territory. The focus moves to the action sequences and a villain that, honestly, isn't that interesting.
Yeah, and by that point, it starts to turn into this overly long SNL skit. And I guess that would transition to my mixed opinions towards this movie. And the humor of this film really is hit or miss, just like Saturday Night Live, and it really starts to break apart more and more. And I guess a good example of this is where they have a gag go on for too long, like when the Ghostbusters first meet the mayor and Abby and Aaron share this joke about shoving a cat down the bag, and it goes on for like 30, 40 seconds. And I was like, did they really think it was that funny to keep in the final cut? And of course, there's this vaginal fart joke in the beginning.
Okay,
And
that was stupid.
yeah, it's like, I don't want to act like I'm high and mighty or biased because I like the blowjob ghosts
Oh.
from the original. I don't know. I don't know. This
Okay,
this
that
one
was
felt
actually funny.
yeah, this felt way too out of place.
Yeah.
And they also addressed the internet trolls, which I thought was kind of funny, and they had Abby almost send a death threat to a troll. I thought it was weird that they, like the way they had him, ain't no bitches gonna catch no ghost or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Kind of like what you said, though, Kate McKinnon and Chris Hemsworth are really the only two whose jokes are consistently funny. Everything else is kind of out there. In a way, the original Ghostbusters is representative of the old SNL, while this new film is similar to the current day one.
Yeah, like, even though I liked Leslie Jones, some of the stuff that she said in this movie was just sort of like, why? I don't know if that was a race thing or a lady thing, but I'm mad as hell.
All of her jokes are in the trailers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Pretty much all the big moments. I mean, it is a Sony movie, so they have to advertise the entire film.
Oh yeah, remember when they put like the first 10 minutes of TASM 2 on
Oh
YouTube?
my god.
Oh god. So,
Let's not
do you
talk
want to
about
go?
that.
No.
Let's not talk about that movie.
No.
So, unfortunately, I mean, besides the cast, there's not too many bright spots in this film.
No, and nothing important in this movie is ever explained. Like, I think the biggest issue with this film is character development. And then an example of this is at the beginning, there seemed to have been this rivalry between Aaron and Abby, but they never discuss why or what caused it. And they try building it up for a while, but after they encounter their first ghost, it's like they're all friends again. Like, no, your so-called friend published your book without your permission, makes revenue off of it, and screws you over your 10-year and reputation. It's like, childhood friend or not, I would never talk to that bitch again.
And I think the biggest problem is that we don't know too much about these characters. Like, we know that Kristen Wiig's character, she works at a university, but besides the book, we don't know her backstory with Abby at all.
No, actually, they did try to give a backstory, but it's poorly done.
I saw
Let
ghosts when I was
yeah
little.
yeah. Let me read it.
That
It
was really
says
half-assed.
they try like what's bullshit about that scene is that they didn't even try to film the backstory. They just zoomed in on her face and played sad score in the background.
No, they just told what happened.
Yeah, the old lady next door died. She would haunt me aside my bed every night. I spent years in therapy. Mom and dad never believed me. They still don't. The kids found out and started calling me Ghost Girl. Abby was the only kid who believed me. And Leslie Jones, like, man, that's tough. Kids is cruel, man. I believe you. Oh my god, this movie.
Oh no. What
Oh
about the
yeah.
cameos? There are at least
Uh,
5 or 6 in this movie.
a lot of people are probably gonna hate me for this, but I love the Bill Murray cameo, and I don't know if I legitimately like it or if it's just like ironic. But I was like rolling on the floor. Like he plays a paranormal debunker because apparently that's a thing, and Aaron once wanted to prove him that they weren't hoaxsters by opening the ghost trap in front of him, causing the ghost to throw him out the window and killing him. And I think that was the only real laugh out loud moment for me. It's so fucking stupid, but it's so great.
No, his cameo didn't work for me at all. He was basically just a plot device.
So they could meet the mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's so bullshit about that scene is that nobody, not even the media, tries to like use that against the Ghostbusters.
None of the media scenes work at all.
No. Like the scene where when mayhem is going on in Times Square and they cut to a scene on the Today Show and they apparently have this animation on the screen and it's like bullshit. Let's talk about some of the other cameos. Annie Potts. Uh,
She was there for like maybe a minute.
yeah, and it was like a forced, what do you want? And there's a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's a few forced references to the original in this movie. Like Dan Aykroyd's cameo as a cab driver. I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Man, all the cameos in this movie are just lazy. They
Yeah,
add nothing to the plot.
No, it was so bad. I was just waiting for one of the Ghostbusters to say, Dustin makes me feel good.
It's just distracting. Then you have the
Yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne cameo for whatever
I
reason.
don't get that. Like, I saw this movie twice and I still don't get that.
No, he was only there for half a second, and I don't even understand the point of that.
Yeah. Ernie Hudson plays Patty's uncle at the end, which I kind of got a chuckle out of it.
What happened to my hearse?
It's like, oh, why can't you do 2 funerals at once? I'm not stacking them like flapjacks.
Oh, man.
Sigourney Weaver, I wasn't expecting her. I guess she's supposed to be this new intern, but it's only in the end credits. I mean, her character looks like fun. I mean, if they make a sequel, I wouldn't really mind her as a character and not just a cameo.
No, I doubt Sigourney Weaver's gonna accept the role in the second film.
Nah. And other cameos that aren't live action, we have Slimer and Girl Slimer.
Which you would think is like something straight out of the cartoon, but apparently they never did that.
Yeah, it's super weird. I never really cared for Slimer. Like, I never really got why he was the mascot of the franchise. Like, I would honestly prefer the blowjob ghost as the mascot. That's appropriate.
I think he would have fit in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man cameo, which
Oh my
was
God.
just a lazy throwback. Like I said before, I did like the air balloons, but I'm just sort of like, why do that?
He looks worse in this movie than he did in the original.
Yeah, like I thought he was like, as a kid, I thought he was creepy in the original movie because he wouldn't really move. He was just sort of stiff, and his eyes were like move very slowly. But in this, it's just really animated.
Yeah, like you said, Scooby-Doo animation.
Yeah. And Rowan turns into a giant version of the Ghostbusters logo.
Oh my God.
Which
And how they stop him at the end, it's just...
Oh my god. They zap him in the fucking groin. Just because. Because that's his weak spot, apparently. And I did like the 2D animation, I guess, and how they sort of transitioned that into 3D. But I swear to God, if this is a reference to like the intro to the 80s cartoon,
Did you like the origin story they gave for the logo?
no, it's absolute bullshit.
Uh,
Like it's probably one of the most iconic logos in film history, but it's still a basic ass logo. It's like and
there's so many
like
pointless throwbacks in this movie, but they never reference crossing the streams, which you would think that's important.
exactly, and they never talk about how they store the ghost either. By the end of the movie, they have all this new tech, but they never talk about where they put the ghost.
No. But we know the origin of the logo.
No, which is honestly, it's hilarious because during the subway scene, they hold back on it for so long.
Mhm.
When the wannabe Banksy, is that his name? And they hold it off for so long. And then it's like, we know what it is. We know it's the fucking Ghostbusters logo. And then they show Kate McKinnon take a picture of the logo, and she says, "Am I on crack, or is that a good logo?" It's like, you might as well just wink to the audience.
Uh,
In this movie, for whatever reason, there are certain parts of this film that feels like it's trying to be an MCU movie.
yeah, in a way, because yeah, there is an after credits sequence, but it is pretty much setting up for sequels.
Yeah, what is Zool? Even the score like feels like something straight out of Iron Man.
Definitely my biggest complaint is that there are no original ideas presented in this film.
And which is a shame because it's
Mhm.
like all this time, like this is the best you could come up with.
There's so many things you can do with a movie about hunting the paranormal. Even the villain, it's just a throwback to the original.
I don't know, like Ronan's a weak ass villain, but he seems like the kind of guy that who would like start a mass shooting or something.
Rowan is your basic 4chan user.
I don't know, he's just the kind of guy you want to punch in the face. And plus, it would have been better if he had some close connection to the Ghostbusters.
Mhm.
Maybe have him a Columbia student or something.
He's
But
not
no,
he's not interesting at all. He's just
no.
mad at the world.
He was bullied during his childhood, Kaveh. Yeah, and I guess he's had all of this tech at a motel and nobody got suspicious about it. Like, and apparently he got all of his plans by reading Aaron's book. Like, that was only published a couple of days ago. Fuck out of here. Also, about important elements not really being explained in the movie is how they were able to hold a business. Like, where did the money come from? Like, I would assume the book, but they never emphasize on that. And by the time the first act is over, we don't hear about the book ever again until kills himself.
Well, another thing, because it is a Sony blockbuster, there are plenty of product placements here. Did you know the Ghostbusters enjoy eating Papa John's?
Bust him, Papa. Are you crazy? He's my best customer.
Everybody's trying to get their hands on Papa John's new XL dual layer pepperoni pizza.
Oh my goodness, that was dumb. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, New Yorkers eating chain pizza.
No,
Of course,
that's not even
no.
realistic, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, Spider-Man eats local pizza. Why can't the Ghostbusters?
Oh no, and then Chris Hemsworth, when he's showing his logo ideas, then they just
Mhm.
show a 7-Eleven logo.
Oh shit, I
I'm
forgot
like,
all about that.
come on.
When the ghost like turns Times Square back into like the 1900s or some shit like that, there's posters for all these movies, and there's this Sony logo, and it's just like, why? If you're gonna be historically accurate, why put the Sony logo there?
They use Sony 4K cameras to record the ghosts.
Oh yeah. Not even handy cams, just 4K cameras.
No. Kate McKinnon's eating Pringles.
Oh yeah. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, so did you want to transition to our final thoughts?
Yeah, let's do that. This movie wasn't exactly terrible. I had fun with it, to be honest.
Hmm.
And I saw this movie twice. Once was during a free advanced screening where I actually got to see this before most people did. And the second time was last Friday and out of pocket, mind you. So just so I couldn't have a biased opinion on it. But let's be honest, if I had to see it twice to form an opinion, then it probably wasn't that good in the first place. While this did have some good moments, it focused way too hard on trying to appeal to like everybody, the fans, people who just didn't want to see this in the first place, and that resulted in the producers forgetting to make a coherent, tight script, an average, somewhat forgettable story. I've seen every single one of the cast in much better shit than this. Like, yes, I love the chemistry of the girls, but everything surrounding them was just dull. And it's a damn shame, too, because Paul Feig has made much better comedies than this. Hell, Spy had a more coherent story that's both funny and serious. And considering Sony wants to make this into a cinematic universe, I don't know if that's really going to work. They're just desperate for a hit franchise. Like, there's even a new cartoon on the way. And a sequel could possibly work since they've got all the fan service out of their systems and there's nothing holding them down now. But as far as this movie goes, I would only recommend it on a matinee or a red box rental, which the rental could possibly benefit you more since there's going to be a director's cut.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you on that. This movie was somewhat of a mixed bag. It's not the disaster some people were hoping for, but it really brings nothing new to the table. Sony definitely decided to take the safe route here, and like you said, it was solely focused on appeasing the fans. Fans that were basically boycotting this film. There's potential to do something interesting in a sequel, although for now, I would only say this film is only worth renting or streaming if you are a Ghostbusters fan. I wouldn't even say it's worth seeing in theaters, honestly.
Well, that wraps up our first discussion of the Cinema Society. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more of the Roundtable. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for donations and rewards. This is McCord signing off, and until we meet again, stay gold.
Anyways, today I want to look at an episode from Billy and Mandy. I really love this show because at its height it was able to mix together multiple different humor styles, from darkness to parody to poop jokes, into what was once my favorite cartoon. It doesn't really get talked about as much today as I think it should be, but then again it was pretty well treated by the network when it aired, unlike another show